Skyborne is the drop tower at Lost Island Themepark, and this ride is notable for several reasons. It is the park's tallest ride, it has some really good theming, and was actually the prototype SNS Turbo Drop. Does it still hold up though? Find out in this review. Drop towers debuted in the 1980s. The earliest versions slowly hoisted vehicles atop a tower before releasing them back down. SNS revolutionized the concept in 1995 with the Space Shot. This was a unique type of drop tower, where the gondola instead was launched airborne using compressed air. Shortly thereafter, they developed a drop tower more akin to what other manufacturers offered. Known as the Turbo Drop, this ride would slowly bring the gondola to the top. The ride would then use compressed air to offer an accelerated freefall. The prototype went to Buffalo Bill's Resort and Casino in Nevada. This opened in 1997. The ride would operate for 2 decades until it was dismantled. As we've since learned, the resort was suffering major financial issues, which is why it has since ultimately closed altogether. Around the same time, the Lost Island Water Park in Iowa began planning a theme park. They slowly started to acquire some used amusement rides, including Buffalo Bill's former Turbo Drop. Lost Island Themepark opened its gates in 2022, and this drop tower was one of the original rides. It was rethemed and rebranded as Skyborne. And this ride looks great on the park's skyline. It is Lost Island's tallest attraction by far, standing 180 feet or 55 meters tall. It towers over everything else here. Then the structure is mostly white. It then has blue and purple accents to tie in with the color palette of the Udara realm that it belongs to. Udara is an air-themed realm, which is reinforced through Skyborne's queue. It shows sketches of flying machines and a full-sized flight suit. Then this leads to a pre-show talking about how they've struggled to build a flying city, but they are finally close. So you are told you will board an experimental prototype vehicle that can sustain levitation for a few seconds before you see it comically wipe out, foreshadowing your impending fall. You don't see a lot of drop towers at pre-shows, especially at regional parks, so this is a really nice touch that goes above and beyond. Most days, you will go straight to this pre-show. The common theme with Lost Island thus far has been that rides have had little to no waits. The ride seats a max of 12 riders per cycle. The gondola has 4 sides, each with 3 seats. Seating is on a first-come basis. I like facing out towards the park if possible. I think that has the most interesting view. Riders are secured by over-the-shoulder restraints. These are fine. They match the ones seen in all the older SNS drop towers. Once secured, the cycle begins, and you slowly rise above the load platform. After a brief pause, you continue climbing atop the tower. Now, because of how flat Iowa is, you can see for miles in each direction. As I noted, the views overlooking the park are particularly great. It is really cool seeing all the colorful lands from above. Once at the top, you are held there for a few seconds. This gives you more time to take in the sights, and it builds anticipation for the plunge. One of the best parts about drop towers is the sudden release. However, this is spoiled on Skyborne. The gondola weirdly lowers slowly for a second or so before being fully released. This ultimately serves as a warning for the drop, which cancels out the stomach drop sensation for me, which is caused by the suddenness of most drop towers. I have never seen another SNS drop tower do this. At first, I was wondering if I just caught the ride on an off day, but reviewing the footage of this ride when it operated at Buffalo Bill's, it also did the exact same thing there. So maybe this is just a weird quirk from the prototype that is designed out in later versions. But if you have been on another version that does this, definitely let me know down in the comments. I am really curious. The drop itself in Skyborne is fairly mild. The SNS models tend to have gentler drops than a lot of the other large-scale drop towers, but this is particularly mild even by turbo drop standards. You only get some okay floater for an instant. Then you start decelerating. Then the rest of the drop feels a bit sluggish, especially since you decelerate so quickly. The best turbo drops offer a more forceful downward acceleration with an ejector pop. This one simply does not do that. At the bottom, you get a blast of positive Gs as the compressed air rapidly forces you upwards. You then bounce up and down a few times. This is mellow, mostly serving as bonus time to take in the sights. You then lower back down to the load platform, ending the experience. While the pre-boarding experience is quite a bit of theming, I was disappointed none of it carried over to the on-ride experience. At minimum, I would have loved if there had been some sort of narration and or sound effects linking back to the plot from the pre-show, but alas, they were not there. So what would I rate Skyborne? I would give this ride a 4 out of 10. This is a below average drop tower. That is mainly due to the tamer than usual plunge. It just doesn't have the airtime or gut punch of other installations. But the ride does still have some redeeming qualities. You still get a little floater on the descent, the views are nice, and the theming during the queue and pre-show is really cool. If you have the time, definitely give this a whirl while at the park, since it still ends up being one of their better non-coasters. Those are my thoughts on Skyborne and Lost Island Themepark. What are your thoughts on this ride? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.